Hey everybody, this is Menor speaking. My name is Alex, and today we're going to talk about the manosphere, or why the manosphere has garnered such a negative reputation over the last few years. Now, if you don't know, red-pilled means reality pilled, right? It comes from the movie The Matrix. It's where Neo takes either the red pill or the blue pill, and the red pill will wake him up from his world in which, that he lives in, which is fake, or the blue pill will make him forget all about the illusions, go back to his world where he's living in this fake, computerized, artificial universe, and just be happy as a sort of peasant peon, serf, what have you, of the machine. Uh, so red pilled means you've woken up from that machine, and manosphere is basically men on the internet talking to each other, which either means they're going to talk about something something constructive or something not so constructive. Today we're going to focus on the not so constructive aspects of the manosphere. I am joined by Lady O'Lindens. Bring her in quick.
Hello, thank you for having me. I can't have a camera right now, but I'm still here talking.
Oh, no worries, no worries. All right, excellent, excellent. And I'm also joined on my left side here by Pud.
Oh,
Hey, Pud. Oh, he's so chubby. He's so chubby. So if you hear shouting, that's probably him wanting food. Thank you for letting me introduce everybody. And today we're going to get to it. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera, and we're going to focus on the work at hand.
All right.
Okay. So first off, I want to start out, Lady O'Lindens. What was your visceral impression of the manosphere? What do you know about it? How much do you know about it?
I know a bit about it. I'm not too terribly involved. I haven't followed too many people. I do have a soft spot, I suppose you could say, for just Pearly things. Admittedly, I don't agree with everything necessarily or how she handles herself all the time, but I agree with a lot of actually what she says, and I do enjoy watching her discuss things with various different people. Beyond that, though, I can't say I've spent too much time. I'm aware of certain figures like Andrew Tate, but again, I've never really watched. As far as the Manosphere stuff in general goes, I can understand why it's a movement, but it almost seems something that's not entirely been productive other than getting people to talk about issues that are happening, as we're hopefully going to be doing here.
Right, right. I get the feeling, and well, I guess I'll say to the viewers here, it's funny because people who don't know that much about the manosphere, and especially young men and ladies, tend to be very sympathetic to it. I tend to be very sympathetic to it because it does bring awareness to a lot of issues that men are facing. Now, we know from a lot of movements that bringing awareness to something is a little bit like stacking fuel. Right. And what you don't do when you make awareness is actually have any sort of call to action. So that's the problem. So I know quite a bit about the manosphere. I was actually a member of like the liminal order and all that stuff, which is a sort of, I guess is defunct now. I joined in out of curiosity and because I heard that there was a lot of guys in there who were very knowledgeable about the insides. I was very fed up with the amount of sort of the echo chamber and the noise of places like Twitter or any other online space. You can't really tell what's true and what's a conspiracy theory. Sorry, go ahead.
And how long were you more active with them or among their ranks?
Oh, that's a good question. I was there for a year officially, but I would say I was only active for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay, good to know.
I'm big on calls to action. I want to know what is to be done, right? Like there's an episode of South Park where Stan and the boys get really excited about environmentalism from some hippies. And then much to the disappointment of Stan and his friends, they go to a rock concert and they're just wondering, okay, so when are we going to fight? When are we going to fight for the environment, right? When are we actually going to do something? And the hippies just say, we're raising awareness, dude.
Right.
We're letting the good vibes go over us. I was like, okay, yeah. So the problem I have is that I got a problem and I've got a lot of respect, I suppose, for the Red-Pilled Manosphere. And the respect comes from, so far, I have not found their reasoning or facts to be wrong. They're factually very correct.
Right.
And what kind of facts really struck out at you? Because you know a little bit about the manosphere. You've watched some Pearly things, some Tate. What kind of facts like surprised you about that they showed you?
Honestly, the reality of how things are difficult for men, especially or including legally speaking. So, for example, with divorces, I had been told time and time again that men get about nothing. They really get kicked when they're down already when divorce happens. I didn't realize just how bad it is. I also didn't realize that for dating, most women are going for, I believe it's usually said the top 20% or so, and then there's just 80% of men who are being
Mm.
overlooked and basically, well, I guess you could say incels, but where it's not up to them, but they just have no one who's willing to give them a chance, basically.
Well, that's the in for the incel, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
involuntary. For anybody who doesn't know, incel is involuntary celibate. It's actually a movement created by a lady
Right.
who was
Really?
yeah. It was a
Hmm.
subreddit. I think was the origin of it, and it was started by a
Okay.
lady who was involuntarily celibate. She couldn't find a partner, and she just said, you know what, I'm going to make peace with it. Which
Honestly, that makes sense, and I've related to the term incel as well before, so
yep, yep.
mhm,
The it's a real problem. Now the thing about being a man is that uh,
mhm,
I think Jocko Willink called it was it ultimate responsibility or shoot extreme ownership. That's the one. Extreme
yeah.
ownership states that everything is your fault, right? Like if everything in your life is your fault, you let it. If someone robbed you, it's because you let it happen.
Mhm,
If someone screwed you, it's because you let them screw you. You should have been prepared for it. And extreme ownership also can extend out to men in general. Like you know, things are the way they are. How are you going to own it? All right. It's not just about who's to blame, but it's also who's there to fix it. And there's, I think, a lot of guys who are in the manosphere, and pretty much every guy on this planet will pretty much agree that there's no woman who's going to come and save us, right? So
right.
it's going to have to be a man. It's going to have to be men. Uh, but the problem is the truth itself is not enough to be a man. The red-pilled
Mhm,
manosphere knows a lot of truths. They're definitely right about divorce. They're
yeah.
definite. Yeah, they're right about all this stuff, right? It's just what they do
Right.
with that information. So, like a lot of them will say, "Oh, divorces really screw guys over. I will just never get married ever, ever."
Yeah,
Um,
and it's one of those things where you can know if you're driving that a green light means you can go, but if you don't actually press the gas pedal when the light turns green, you're not gonna go anywhere, so
yeah. You have to do it. You have to make it
mhm,
happen yourself. But also, I think it's funny because there's so many contradictions though. Because life is full of contradictions, and that's where you get to it. That's where adaptations happen, right? Like
right.
the contradiction that a lot of guys will believe is that I have no power in the marriage. She's gonna screw me over, and then they'll also say, and then the red pill guys will also say that women are gullible. They'll fall for astrological signs and
Mhm.
manifestation and other hoo ha. And I look at that sort of thing and I say, you have an opportunity here. Why isn't she falling for you? Like, why aren't you making like flim flam for her to believe in? Like when she's looking at stars and saying like, oh yeah, that's meaning, that's certainty in life. That's gonna grant me what I want and tell me what destiny is. Like, no, that was supposed to be your job, sir, man, the
That's
husband.
true, but also these days, if guys do that, they're called abusive and manipulative and blah, 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 so, I mean, it does
They
work, though,
also
for the guys who do it.
yeah, it's exactly. Well, another thing about being a man is you're not supposed to care what other people say.
Right!
You,
Too many men care too much.
they care so much. Yeah. Like guys will be afraid of being called any names. They'll be afraid
Mhm.
of being. It doesn't stick, and the thing is that the name calling doesn't stick anymore, which
Right.
makes it easier. But it never should have been a barrier. It never should
Right.
have been a barrier. I think the boyfriends in the past that people would call like, oh, he's abusive or manipulative. It's like you probably actually have a lot to learn from the manipulative ones. Like, how did he get her to stay with her despite the fact that he has a terrible job? Like the manipulative boyfriends have the most loyal girlfriends in the
They
world.
do, though, they really do, and the way I would explain it is, obviously, the ones who use their powers improperly, obviously, that's bad. I'm not saying guys be
Right,
manipulative
right.
and awful and abusive. However, there are plenty of things to learn. It's like when we learn various things, in the world wars, and then, I can't remember exactly where it was discussed, that's leaving me now, but there's still discoveries that were made in terms of, like, science and, technology during that time period that it was decided we'd still keep with us and use despite the fact that people died because of those things and died quite horrendously at that.
Right,
But we
right.
still use the knowledge that we gained from it. It's similar here. You see guys doing awful things, but man, his lady is basically ride or die, even if it's destroying her. Well, what's he doing that you, a genuine good guy, could do?
Right. It's so funny because the guys will believe that women are really easily manipulated, and that they'll say, then they'll say that these women will never trust them. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're not okay. So if you want to learn how to do sales, go to a pyramid scheme sales place. Like if you're gonna learn how to do sales and persuasion, go to a
Mm-hmm.
timeshare sales pitch and just sit and watch them and learn. Like watch these commercials,
Yeah.
like infomercials and stuff. These things actually do work on quite a bit of people. And
Mm-hmm.
guys will say like, "Oh, I'm too good for that," or "I'm not going to do that to a lady." But there's some really easy little tricks that you can do, and that's probably what I'm going to put a lot of my channel. There's the famous example I had was I noticed that my wife had a lot of free time on her hands, and that usually makes people feel empty.
Yeah.
Women are naturally more caregivers than men are, right? They want to take care of something.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
you show me any woman who says that she's not a natural caretaker, and I'll just pull a kitten out of my pocket and then like start petting it and let it mew all pitifully, and she will completely revert. All that
Mm-hmm.
high-minded idealism and feminism is going to just melt away as she comes over to pet the little kitty,
You
right?
can't deny instincts. You can't.
You can't. So what I did was I kept my ears open. Someone from work said they have two kittens that they need to take care of, they need to find a good home. And I
Mm-hmm.
told my wife, we'll take the both of them for a week and then decide which one we're going to keep. And of course, I knew that she was going to keep both of them. She was going to keep both of them. Like I knew it. She wouldn't be able to give either of them back.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know that. I was able to get her in the door and like give her this really low, really low floor, right, of commitment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then she was able to buy into a little bit. And then I knew she was going to buy the rest of it. It's the same
Yeah.
thing as it's the same thing if I took someone on a single day of a cruise. And so it's like, well, we could get off at the first port. Like we're going to start at Miami and then we're going to go
Mm-hmm.
around to Tampa. And you can get off at Tampa if you want. And we'll grab a rental car. We're like, no, she's going to stay for the whole cruise, right?
Right.
Talk someone who's reluctant, getting people out of their comfort zone. And a lot of ladies like to stay in their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that ladies love to take classes. They love to take classes and
Yeah.
workshops. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you want to learn how to sew? No, I'm not going to look on YouTube. I'm gonna go to class. I need a class to teach me how to breathe. I need a class to teach me how to stretch. I need a
Yeah, I
class to
had
teach
an
me how to.
ex who had to work me out of that habit because I kept wanting to spend money to do classes for various things, and he kept on saying, "But there's YouTube. You can go to plenty of different people to look on
Yeah.
YouTube, and it's free." And finally, I started doing that. So luckily, I more or less got out of that habit. But it was just the instinctive first thing that I've that was my go-to a way of wanting to learn things. I need to take classes, but money.
Well, okay. Here's an actual actionable thing for you red-pilled guys out there that want to get women. Learn a skill and then become a teacher at it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it is manipulative to become a teacher at something and then date your students, possibly, right? I don't say like become a teacher in like a high school or be a creep, right? I mean like
Oh no.
be like a kayaking instructor,
Mm-hmm.
and get some ladies in your class, and they will like the fact you'll first off you'll have a place of authority, right? And you have a place of knowledge
Mm-hmm.
advantage and a place of respect from the get-go.
Right.
And then you get to show them a thing, and also it makes them feel more powerful as you teach them things. So women, one of the reasons why women date men and like men is because men are like a window into a new world. And
Yes.
although I don't have like some fancy degree or a ton of research in how women think, I look at what people consume, and that tells me exactly who they are.
Yeah,
So
and I
if I
will.
look at,
Oh,
go ahead, yeah.
yeah, I just want to add on to that while we're still touching that sort of topic would be that women also really like to have a guy who will teach them things and can help them
Yes.
learn things, especially when it offers excuses to have like, one-on-one time, especially if you get to like, oh, he has to adjust how I'm standing or my posture. It's just all around good.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why there's the trope of like the lady falling for the personal trainer. By the way, if
Mhm.
you're a man and your wife has a personal trainer who is
Oof.
a man, you need to change that immediately. Like you should be her personal trainer.
Yeah.
Why are you not more fit than your wife? Why
Oh,
are you
for
not more
sure.
fit than your wife? Like what the F? Like why is your posture not better? Why are you
Yeah.
like these guys will all right. I'm going to take a quick tangent, which could be its own whole video. All these guys will quote statistics, and then they'll turn around and look at other statistics and say, like, well, that's there's more nuance to it than that, right? They'll look at marriage statistics and say, like, look at all these divorces, and then they'll look at like disparities in, I don't know, arrest rates for different ethnicities or something, and they'll say, like, well, there's a lot of nuance in there. You know, it's just because those people do more crimes. It's like a lot of these guys who are getting divorced. I don't know how many dudes. I don't know what the demographics are, right? Like if you just broke it down by BMI or broke it down by other demographic indicators, like what's the personal health of the. I would love to know more about who's actually getting divorced. What's the personal health? What's the education level? What stage are they at in their career? Like there's probably a. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Similarly, I think it would also be interesting to see the demographic of the wives who are also involved with the divorces, because I figure a lot of them probably do buy into certain trends that are going around socially, culturally at this point, and so certain sets of women are more keen on those than others.
Yes, and the thing about the husband is, if you're a husband and you're noticing that your wife is consuming a lot of content, like whether it's Oprah or whether it's astrology or something like that, you have to subvert that and immediately take control. And taking control just might mean that you've guided her over to something that's a little bit more constructive, right? Something that is a known quantity to you. So instead of letting her go to, I don't know, Curves gym or something like that and get a personal trainer, you could move her over to, I think Curves is actually an all women's gym, but like an all women's gym would be better, and best would be that you teach her yourself how to do stuff. Like
for sure.
Teach your wife how to do a push-up. I guarantee you that the men who get divorced are not the men who teach their wife how to do a push-up or how to stay
They probably don't work out with their wives either, because I know, for me at least, I figure other women as well, there's just a lot of enjoyment in doing things together, even working out, where obviously it wouldn't be the same abilities, but just doing it together and having him to assess and aid and compliment here and there. It's bonding time, it's quality time, and you both get to work on yourselves together as well. So
it also asserts the guy's authority as the head of the household by forcing him to be. He has to be better than his wife. Like if she's lapping him, that's not a good sign. You got to step on it, gents. Like she's not going to respect you. So it forces you to actually. You gotta. It's one thing to have the limelight on you. That's what the authority is. And the next thing is deserve to be there. And the fact is, a lot of women are just leaving men who don't deserve the authority of husband. They can't control themselves. They can't control their spending, or they have some vice, or the men themselves are looking to their own Oprah. Like the Red-Pilled Manosphere is pretty much just like Liver King is basically Oprah, as far as I'm concerned. It's Oprah for men. Oh, seriously. It's
you're not wrong.
Literally, yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is, guys need to take their natural place in the family, and they need to be okay with all of the downsides to that, and they have to be able to assert all the rights that come with that. And to assert all the rights means you have to lead by the mandate of everyone you're leading, right? You never try to be leader. So like you never say that you're a lady, because if you have to say that you're a lady, then you're not one, right? But like that's actually a good subject of like, how do men in your eyes deserve that authority? What can they do to actually take that place?
Oh, well, for one, they have to be stoic. I am so over effeminate men who will be crybabies or whine and complain, or they just want to let their emotions out. Like, if you're doing that in the way a lady's doing it, it is a turnoff, no matter how feminist she is, I promise. But also just wants to take charge of things. I know for me, it's really important, especially when I don't have to make big decisions when I have a partner. I want him to make the biggest decisions. Obviously, I get like to talk about it with him, but I mean, yeah. And I want to have things that I can choose into things, but I don't want to be the one responsible for everything, except if there were children involved, or shared pets, or a shared home. I want him to be the one taking care of us when it comes to the outside world. if that makes sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. That, and you touched on another sort of truism of relationships and men and women, is that men need to make the decisions, which are complicated, parametric. A lot. Parametric means above metrics. There's many metrics to it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're buying a house, the man will be juggling, like, what kind of heating system does it have? Does it have a basement? Is it above grade? What's the grading on the property? What is the flooding a possibility? What is the utility company, school district? All these really kind of heavy duty decisions that are, all of them kind of fight each other. And of course, price, right? Like everything, all those things I just listed come at the cost of more cost, right? Like it's going to be more expensive. So how do you balance all that stuff? What kind of loan do you get? All those things are decisions. Inside of that decision, I think the lady would like to see, like, what's the layout of the house and what color is it?
Which
and how does the
rooms will
neighborhood
go
look?
to go to what things, or if there's children, which child gets which room, how we're going to decorate, if there's going to be an overall theme, what we're going to do with the garden, that sort of stuff. Whereas the big responsibility choices, they're overwhelming. And I have known many women, including, if not especially, or more so, women older than myself, who not only do they get overwhelmed by these sorts of decisions, but they will get flustered and frustrated and upset when their respective partners, their husbands, either looked at them, say, "What do you think about this?" or just don't make an actual decision. And they're like, "Well, I don't know, because there's this and there's that. And why can't you just do it? I don't know anything about." And I know a lot of them, they want to be the strong, independent woman type, which, sure, I mean, I understand the appeal of that. I used to want that myself for a bit. But ultimately, we just naturally don't want to have to be bothered with that stuff.
Yes, yeah. But you also want to keep your own space of making the choices. So if the guy was going around like choosing exactly which color is going to
Oh,
be,
yeah,
he would
no.
probably be, you'd be cloyed in, you'd be unhappy, right? Yeah. So
Right.
it's about domains, and it's kind of funny. I would love to see a study by a psychologist about how long does it take to make a decision, and he would just let's say he gives all the participants in the study, I don't know, a choice of houses, because a house is a great choice, because everyone has to think about where they're going to live, and you can control the number of variables that are different. So the one swatch, like level 1, the most simple choice is the houses are all exactly the same except the color.
Oh,
And then you work your way up in complexity.
right.
And what you do is you have to make all these decisions. It's how long does it take, and also afterwards, how much negative feeling do you have towards the decision you made?
Yeah, and for
Or how
both
much?
men and women, and compare.
Correct. Because I think guys would just say, like, boom, it's done. Because the way I terminate a decision is I say, did I do everything that I could with the information that I had? Right. And then once I've made the decision, I almost take it like it was an act of God. I no longer think about it. Like, it's done.
That's not how ladies do it. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Well, how do ladies do it? Bring me down to the mindset here.
We fret about it. We worry about it way too much. We consider things that likely won't even come into play. I don't know how many circumstances myself or friends that I've had, or other women who are older and more experienced than me, will spend time saying, well, what if this and then that, or even that? And then ultimately it's not even anything worthwhile. But also, even after you pull out your list of pros and cons for each potential option, you then have your gut feelings to contend with. Well, I know this one has less pros. However, I just kind of feel like I got to go with the one. And then after you make your decision, they're still thinking about it, like overthinking, like, well, maybe I shouldn't have done this, or maybe I should have, done this thing slightly different. I wish I had more specific, exact examples, but they're just not coming to me at the moment. I apologize. But there's still a lingering regret usually, even after you're stuck with it, and you still wonder sometimes years later, like, maybe I should have done that different, and maybe things would be so much better now.
The funny thing is that men, I don't know about women, but men play decision games. And a decision game is a term I just coined. A decision game is a game where you have a lot of uncertainty, but you have to go with a course of action and see it through. Poker is a really good decision game. because you can regret, and you can regret, and you can regret. You can lose a lot of money on a single hand, and it turns out the other guy was bluffing, and you can say like, I should have seen it. I should have seen his eye ticket, and you could dwell on it, right?
Oh yeah.
The thing of that is that you find your poker players are the ones that don't dwell on it. They make a decision, they learn from their mistake, they move on, because there's so much to regret. By the end of a night, if you're not smiling and laughing and be like, well, I got cleaned out, what are you gonna do? That's the kind of attitude that a guy has to have. I was like, well, I made a lot of bad decisions tonight.
You have to take that. You have to take that no regrets sort of mentality. No regrets.
Well, you kind of have to. You can't be stoic and also have regrets.
Fair.
You cannot be stoic and have regrets. The number of divorced dudes in the Red-Pilled Manosphere is staggering and hilarious. Because you have all these dudes who have had more poor luck than good luck. Or you have these guys who turn out to usually be frauds of some sort or another, or just sad, who are pickup artists. And pickup artists are the most, I don't know which ones. Oh, they're definitely more cringy. They're definitely more cringy.
Oh, for sure.
The thing is, men have to do all the adulting in life, as people say it. Like, men are supposed to be there to do the adulting. And there aren't a lot of men who are adults. There are a lot of men out there who
sadly aren't.
Yeah, let's like, what's the state of men in terms of what you see?
In terms of what I see, there's very, very few good ones, to the point they almost seem non-existent. And of course, those who do exist are generally taken and not worth a proper lady's time anymore, except for, the one he has, assuming there's just one.
Well, what about them makes them not worth your time, right?
I don't want to be part of a harem or sister wife situation.
That's unfortunately how it's going for a lot of ladies.
I know, it's tragic.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, with my salary, I could probably have. I think I did the math once just for funsies. I think I found that I would probably be able to handle 9 fairly
financially.
Easily. Yes.
Nice.
9 wives with like 3 kids each or something like that. Kids are not that expensive. People who think kids are expensive are terminally suburban or urban.
They are, though. They really are.
What? Oh, we mean they are expensive?
No, not that they are expensive. That people who think that are just stuck in the current paradigm of like middle class or upper middle class or whatever.
You can have a kid sleep in a box. That's fine.
There's a lot you can do.
I mean, so I'm for my background, for any viewers out there, I'm Asian. I'm half Asian. And we don't give a damn. Like, we'll like, it's like 3 or 4 to a room, fine, whatever. I was pretty psyched I had my own room when I was a kid, especially being the 4th child, the youngest son. I was pretty much shit on my dad's shoe. So I was like, dang, I have my own room and everything. It was in the basement. It was a bit musty. but
it got the job done.
That's right. I didn't live under the stairs like Harry Potter or something, right? So, but dude, the amount of I'd say cope, but also just the manosphere is full of a lot of guys who are having a lot of trouble being a man.
Yes.
And they're terribly neurotic. Being neurotic. And black pilling is basically a form of giving into the neurosis. Black pilling, for any viewers, or for you, Lindsay, is that when someone just gives up hope. Like, it's like, it's never going to get better. Everything's a work. It's all stacked up against me, which is a very childish or low feminine way of looking at the world. It is not fit for a man. If you're black-pilled, you're not a man. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said absolutely. That is a feminine way of looking. It's not healthy for women either, but we naturally tend to do it a lot.
That's why I say low. As I said, there's like high feminine, which is your Victorian lady.
Oh, yes.
And then low feminine is like, I don't know, petty. I don't know. It's basically the negative side of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All the things that Artemis said to Dee in Always Sunny in Philadelphia in that one episode. Anybody who knows the clip knows the clip. I'll probably stick it in here later on when I do an edit of this.
Good.
So a lot of guys are having trouble contending with just being a man. And men throughout history, most men didn't breed. Most men died alone. Most men died kind of tragically and uselessly. Like, just under their, Like, you think a block falls off the cart on its way to the pyramid and crushes a dude, and they give a damn? They'd
Right.
probably be like, well, leave him in the sand and keep going. We got quotas to make for Imhotep, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, and men are biologically, I suppose you could say, made to be more expendable than women.
we
So,
feel that way too. Like, guys will injure themselves, will jump off the
mhm.
roof with an umbrella, will fight with sticks,
Yeah.
no eye protection, and the dads will just let it happen. The dads will just sit there
Mhm.
and just watch as they're grilling some meat and like drinking a beer. It's like, yeah, the kids are fighting with sticks again, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
a man is not really a man if he holds his own life to be terribly precious. It,
Eh,
a man is externally valuable, like what he does, what his function is. That's what makes a
Right.
man valuable. And a lot of guys are saying, "Oh, poor me, I'm not being treated very well." It's like, you're being treated better than almost all men throughout the entirety of history.
Yeah.
Like, most men were slaves of some sort,
Or
and
just
did
dead.
not. Yeah, yeah. I think in World War One, they were shocked to have 60,000 men die in a day or something
Oh,
like that. And it's like,
wow.
it takes 60,000 men dead in a day for anyone to actually care, is what that tells me.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, but now we hold our lives to be so precious, uh,
Right.
that we don't want anything ever to the possibility of anything bad to happen to us. And a guy who does not allow the possibility of a negative outcome has just
Mhm.
turned himself into a woman. The neuroticism
Well,
is off the charts. You got to take risks. Go ahead.
yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with modern mentality that is sort of neutering our culture in general as well. And I do think it all stems back to probably just feminism itself. I don't have a historical background necessarily going on here. I'm just aware of things vaguely, more or less.
Oh, sure, sure.
But as I understand it, they say that feminism's supposed to be about people being treated equally. And then sometime after that started being a thing, well, people were putting themselves before, say, starting families or unborn children. And it was becoming more about the individual, the me mentality. And it's gotten to a point now where not only are women doing that more than ever and being able to do so, but also so are men. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing here is men no longer, well, they no longer know how to be men. They've been feminized in this world.
Yeah, me. They're neurotic. They're not taking
Mhm,
responsibility. I once knew a guy who just didn't. Okay, I stole this guy's girl when I was in high school,
mhm.
and she was a college girl, so I was dating a
Ooh,
college girl when I was in high school.
nice.
Lucky me.
Mhm.
And she was pretty all right. I mean, I'll brag a little bit. She was a ballerina,
Hmm,
and a costume designer, and she
mhm.
was tall and attractive, very nice.
Yes.
She she was upset that her boyfriend at the time
Mhm,
did not fill out his FAFSA, and she was just so disgusted with this. The FAFSA is the federal loan application. Basically, the need based. It's the form that determines how need
mhm.
based you are for loans. Right? I
Yeah.
know I screwed up my English there. It's my second language after bad English. He didn't fill it out. It's a really
Mm,
easy form. It takes like
yeah.
an afternoon. It's the same as doing your taxes or anything else that you need to do. And she was
Mhm.
disgusted. She was disgusted that he didn't do it.
Right.
I was like, this man is failing as a man. And I'm watching this 19, so 18 or 19 years old girl
Mhm.
disgusted at her boyfriend for not being a man. Like, this
Yeah.
happens pretty early.
Oh, it absolutely it happens even before that. Arguably even a bit before the teen years even hit.
Yeah, what's the ladies' perspective on that? How does it make you ladies feel when your guy's not doing that?
I totally understand why it's a stereotype that wives nag their husbands and the husbands get sick of it. Growing up, I heard a lot of it, and I thought, for a while I bought into the feminist stuff. I'm like, "Oh, that's stupid, blah blah blah." And I've reached a point
Mm,
now where like I totally understand,
it is
because
women's job. Yeah.
yeah, I found that guys, for whatever reason, put things off a lot, or they will say they'll do something and then they just won't do it right away, or they won't do it properly, or they'll just avoid it, make
Mm,
excuse after
hmm.
excuse. It's like, why aren't you just doing this? You said you'd do it, or maybe they didn't say it, but they need to do it. It's like, come on, get on it, get it done. I want to see you get it done. This is frustrating and making me angry that you're not doing what you're supposed to be
Yeah.
doing.
I used to say like all women, and then after a while, I
Hmm.
learned quite a bit, and then I started
Yeah.
just saying Western women, and then I learned even more, and then I just said modern Western women
Hmm.
whenever I make these generalizations about women,
Yeah.
because the way that what you just described is not
Hmm.
normal throughout most of the world.
Yeah.
That is a Western coddled man thing to do, to sit on your butt. Now, women will nag everywhere,
It's
but
our nature.
men are all right. With the phrase "man of action," most men were men of action, like 50 years ago,
Well, they
like
had
before
to
the
be.
baby boomers, basically. Yeah, exactly. You had to be, or else you wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
Like, there's no the factory job model is not is it obviously new, but I don't think people realize how novel that was. Like, if you're on a farm and you're not working, you might not eat. Like, you might have a harvest fail. I actually had a bunch of chicks. So I, for any viewers out there, I also run a little homestead. I got maybe almost near 50 chickens now. Geese. I have sheep. I just put up 180 feet of fence yesterday to close in another flock of sheep that I have, because it turns out sheep breed prodigiously, like quite a lot, like average of 4 lambs per ewe every year. So they just blow up. I can only slaughter them so fast. I've slaughtered 2 rams so far. They're in my freezer. They used to be on my lawn. I remember packing one into my freezer. I was like, 48 hours ago, you were just looking at me, just like wondering when you're going to get fed. Joke's on you.
You're gonna feed me now, man.
Like, guys will just not take out the trash. I actually had a habit I was in where if my wife asked me to do something, I'd just do it immediately. But you don't want to be a simp. What you do is you do the same thing for her. You ask her to do a thing. So, and I would usually ask for we have a soda stream here. So I like to have a fresh squeezed lime soda. Sometimes I put a little bit of vodka in or something like that if it's the evening and I want to wind down. Or I'd ask for a foot bath, because if I'm on my feet all day, it's nice to have a foot bath. And that gives her an opportunity to serve me after I've done what she wants. And she can count on me. I'm like, you hit a button and I'm up, taking action. This whole thing of Western men, I don't know if they just watch their dads. Like, their dads were the lazy TV generation, like watching MASH or something.
Maybe.
And they saw their dads like being lazy and sitting, because baby boomers watch a ton of television. Like, way too much. Like, they give young people crap about their phones, but I'm like, you guys are you guys are watching television way more.
Oh, absolutely.
At least when the young people are like on their phones, they're reading something. They're actually
we're more productive.
They were way more. I would say that we're more productive. We kind of have to be, because our economy is getting wrecked pretty hard.
Well, also, you can only do so much through the TV when it's on, whereas with your phone, you can do at least important things with it, and as well as
you're engaging. You're actually engaging. Yeah. So what you do is you ask your wife to do something. She serves you, and women get a bit of a dopamine high when they are able to perform an activity, serve their husband, and then the husband approves of her. The pat on the head.
Oh, that is worth so much to a lady. It really is. We're like puppies in a sort of way. We want to be cared for. We want to have our man's approval.
Exactly. And like, I guess we're all a bit like puppies, and that the guy wants to be the like the dog that runs out, gets the duck, brings it back to the hunter. Women are like the puppy that's like, ain't I cute? Then curls up and just wants a pet. Right. We all want approval. Right. So the thing about Western guys is they sit on their butts a lot and they don't do stuff. Like, for me, I consider myself pretty lazy, and I self-taught myself engineering well enough that, despite the fact that I have a physics degree, I'm an engineer, making really good money. I bought, I think right after the housing crisis in 2010, I was able to buy a house, and I ran a small rental empire.
Ooh.
So I had a couple of houses. It just sort of snowballed, right? I paid off my student loan debt within about 5 years, like 80 grand of it paid off. Taking care of business. My wife has never had to work. She works on her book. I really don't care what she does throughout the day, as long as she's doing something productive and non-self-indulgent.
Exactly.
And then she also takes care of the livestock on the farm, right? Which is
right.
So we have a bit of a give and take, but like, I look at Western dudes and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with all you guys? You guys are super lazy. Like, Western dudes are super lazy, and they're also super angry.
Oh, they are.
They're like, it's angry like a nutless dog or something. It's like, the monkeys who have the smallest balls tend to shout the loudest.
I've never heard that, but I believe it.
It is I have to find the article for it. If I do an edit of this stream, I'll stick the screenshot of the article here. But it's true. And speaking of like loud monkeys with small balls. Like the red-pilled manosphere is. It's like they're so angry at women. What the hell? Like if women are that bad, why is it of
I
any
still
interest
want
to you
them.
guys? Like why do they care so? Why do you think they care so much?
Well, they're the male version of the feminists, though, are they not?
Ooh. All right, go ahead and
Yeah.
explain.
Uh,
Explain
to, s-
yourself, Lindsay.
I will. So we all have our natural tendencies that tend to go for, on average, and generally beyond average to most all, males and females. And in our particular species, women get very, I'll say neurotic, if not psychotic, even. And so you have the angry feminists who say they hate men and that men are the worst and they're all trash and we don't need
The
men.
cause of all sorts of problems in the world, right?
Exactly, and girl
Yeah, yeah.
power, and they point to other species. They're like, "Oh, this troop of baboons or whatever, they had a generation of their adult males killed, and then all the babies came up, and now they live peacefully, and that we could do that too." Wink, wink. It's like no, and but then similarly, you have, and I want to establish these feminists tend to want women to take over the world and basically take on what's traditionally the role of men, and they just hate the entire process of it. But that's supposedly what they want. And
Yeah,
then,
feminism would die out the minute the electricity stopped working.
oh, absolutely. But anyway, and then on the opposite side, though, you have these men who are almost taking on more of a feminine, traditionally speaking, feminine role in that they're expecting to be catered to. They want the easier life. They don't want to have to do
Mm-hmm.
the big important things. They want to whine and cry and be taken care of and all this other stuff. And also, though, instead of trying to take over, they want to just give in. And they
Yes.
they want to give up and let the feminists take it all. Then fine, ladies, we hate you. You
Yeah,
hate
men
us.
go their own way. Exactly.
Exactly. It's
And big
the
cow.
two
Yeah.
sides of the same coin.
Yes. Yes. Like the fact that they're basically blaming women 100%. So when you blame something, you give
Hmm.
that thing full responsibility over it,
Hmm.
right? That's the reason
Yeah.
why blaming yourself, taking extreme ownership is so
Hmm.
powerful. By the way, the extreme ownership thing, I know Jocko has a book on it, and it's whatever, all fancy whoop de doo. My dad taught me that in 1992 when I was 4 years old.
Self-help is a scam, guys. Seriously
Self
though.
help is when you don't have a dad. Like you should have just your dad should have told you this stuff. It's like stuff
Fair.
your dad should.
Yeah.
I could just go into the bookstore and just go to Books a Million where it says self help. I'll just change the sign over to stuff your dad should have taught you.
I mean,
100%. Like
yeah.
the boomers just dropped the ball. They just didn't pass on any of this stuff. They
Hmm.
just assumed that it came out of nowhere. And I don't know if it's because of the greatest generation did such a good job and the government was so trustworthy back then that everyone just said, "Oh, the government will take care of it. There should be a law. Oh, don't
That
worry, the
could
policeman
be.
will raise my kids."
Right.
Yeah, it was a complete abdication of responsibility to hold the
Hmm.
pillars of civilization up, which is what men's job is supposed to be. But
Yeah.
that's okay. We're gonna take it back up, or at least
Yeah,
like
you
Eastern
better.
men will.
Yeah.
Me and the other Eastern men will. Like we don't
I
mind
mean,
sleeping six to a bedroom and making money and then building something like a small business or a
hmm.
black market. Black markets are free markets, by the way.
Yeah, I
Anyways,
mean, yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just yeah, that is true. It may sound bad when you first hear it, but I mean technically true.
There's no amount of suffering that we won't go through because we can envision a world that is great for us, that has a
Hmm.
place for us. And most guys can't envision a world that has a place for them in the modern
Yeah.
world. That totally exists though. Tons of women want an escape and
Hmm.
they want a man who they're willing to follow. Like we talked a
Yeah.
little bit about was it polygamy? I guess is the
Oh
word
yeah,
for
yeah,
it.
yeah. Polygamy.
Yeah. There's there's guys out there that are getting multiple women. Like that
Right.
20% of guys are getting all of the women. Why don't you just try
Yeah.
being more like those guys? And I know
Exactly.
you
Because
can't grow a foot, or whatever, but short dudes have bred, or else there wouldn't be any short dudes.
I guess I mean there's always recessives, but it's not like they've bred the recessive out. So I guess they're
Correct.
yeah. I mean they get
Yeah.
something that gets them going.
Nah, short dudes can do just fine. They just need to. Although I find it crazy, man, like the lengths that men will go through
Hmm.
for sexual attention, like breaking their legs over and over and over again to
Yeah,
get.
I've heard
You've
of
seen
that.
that?
Ooh. Well,
That's
I first
nuts.
heard of it some years ago before more people started talking about, but I heard about a lot of things before it started becoming even somewhat close to or tangentially close to the mainstream. So I was just in weird parts of the internet for most of my life.
Yeah, I heard about it first in Gattaca. You know, remember that movie? It had a Jude Law. I
No.
don't. He wasn't a star in it. I forget who the star was. But anyway, it was about a future where everyone is genetically enhanced.
Oh.
However, that creates an underclass of non-genetically enhanced.
Oh, I get it. So it's like those books that girls were obsessed with when I was in middle school, The Uglies, and then The Pretties, and then I don't remember the third one, but yeah, same
The pretties will
premise.
eventually take over the world. I mean, by the standards of maybe 500 years ago, the pretties have already taken over the earth. I don't know if you've ever
Yes.
seen like pictures of men and women from 200 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not great.
Like,
So bad. Oh man,
Yeah.
someone showed me a picture of what crops looked like before domestication, right? So like a
Yeah. Yeah.
watermelon was full of
Mhm.
pulp, barely any of it
Yeah.
was edible. Corn was like tiny little seed,
Yeah, it
and
was.
and they said like these are all the things before selective breeding, and then they showed a picture
Mhm.
of a Neanderthal woman. I was like, oh, good point. Good point.
I mean,
Good
it's
point.
not wrong. A lot of
People are
facts in reality are harsh. It
well,
is.
it's but also it's kind of nice because that means things are getting better. Like things are getting better. Like even if a
Right.
guy's not that first off, women don't seem to mind it if you're not that attractive if you have something else
Most.
going on.
Most.
Well, so yeah, well, again, you can't get all women, right? If a guy's out there trying to get
Fair.
all women or a subpopulation of women, is like, I want a woman who's just like this. Is like, don't narrow down your
No.
odds, man. Don't narrow down
Yeah,
your
yeah,
odds.
yeah.
If you want a woman who's open minded, you better be open minded too. That's just reciprocity.
Right, right.
But the
Fair.
fact is these guys are railing against the world. They're
Mhm.
railing against the world and they want women to change
Mhm.
or they just want to leave it all behind.
Right.
Uh, but that's just I mean, and they're literally leaving it for other guys to just pick up.
Yeah, they
Like
are.
those guys are having a great time.
Mhm.
I would probably be one of those guys if I had wanted to. The it's not hard. Like
No.
okay, whenever I'm coaching a guy or helping a guy out,
Mhm.
it is really hard to get them to just compliment a woman. And I say just
Really?
pick a random I say like pick a random girl out. Let's say let's go to coffee, right? I'm gonna
Mhm.
take a guy under my wing. I was like, we're gonna go to coffee. And I did this in college actually. This was my initiation to get into my engineering club because
Oh.
I didn't want a bunch of pansies in my club because they're just
Right.
not fun to hang out with. I said you have to go over to a girl and you got to swing and if you miss, you miss, but you got to swing. So go over there and
Mhm.
swing. Let's see it. and I it's always a good laugh. But most
Mhm.
guys are terrified to even compliment a woman.
That's so
The-
sad.
let's say a woman's got really nice earrings on. And he's
Mhm.
like, those earrings, they remind me, that those are nice. That's what they sound like. It's
Oh
like,
my
and she's
gosh.
like creeped out. It's like, oh, does he have some sort of weird ulterior motive? Why is it so difficult for him to compliment my earrings? Is what I think, right?
Meanwhile, we're dishing them out to each other and even men all the time, it feels like. It's just natural. Like, oh, I like your hair. I
Oh,
like
I
your
gotta disagree.
nails.
I gotta disagree with that in there. I have had almost
Really?
no women ever compliment me.
Really?
Yeah, women don't compliment men very
Am
much.
I the odd one out?
You
Hmm.
might be.
Hmm.
You might because dudes will take a compliment and they'll hold on to it for like a decade. I still remember
Oh.
outside of the Steak and Shake, in Manassas, Virginia, a guy
Mhm.
said he liked my shoes because I had like these really nice bespoke shoes from
Oh.
Undandy that I had made custom, monk
Mhm.
straps, suede inlays with a anyway. There were some nice ass shoes because I was a salesman at the time and
Mhm.
everybody dresses down now. It's the cool thing to dress down.
Yeah.
But for some reason, shoes, you can just go to the moon. So if you want to stand out, have a really nice watch or really nice shoes. And the shoes were cheaper. They're still
Right.
$200
No.
shoes. But anyway,
Mhm.
guy complimented my shoes. I still remember that. I
Wow.
remember the weather outside when he did it. We do not get complimented very much.
That's wild. Maybe most women do just compliment other women like normally like that and not
Yes.
men,
Yeah.
huh?
So the guys I know have very little ability to compliment women, just something
Oh.
simple. And what's funny is whenever I do that, the woman gives me a look
Mhm.
like she is like putty in my hands when I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one girl who had like, I don't know what it's called when there's like braids that go around the crown of her head or on the back. It looks very like Renaissance festival.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm not girl enough to know the term though.
But I'm man enough to know what I like. And I said that was some nice hair. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she just looked at me with this like demure smile of like
Yeah.
of shyness and just like, I could just pick you up right now and just just take you with me, couldn't I? She just loved it so much.
Ladies are actually very easy once you know what to do.
They're not very women are not complicated creatures. I just find that women don't really know what they want.
No, we don't. We need to be told
yeah.
what we want, but we're also going to be mad that we need to be told about it. But once we have what we actually need, that guys can usually tell that we want, that we won't admit to wanting, then we'll be happy.
And it's all about the packaging. I think it's all about the delivery and the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
So
That
you got to go in there
Yes.
and you got to be smooth.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like, okay, women are this is going to jump a couple of subjects, but women are understandably and 100% afraid of men if we come off weird.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like even your most scrawny dude could probably murder a woman with his bare hands if he really wanted to.
Male feminists have a bad reputation for a reason. They're creepy.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're super creepy because one day the frustration's going to burst and they're going to go nuts.
Yeah, and they're the least masculine men usually too. So like they're still a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And they're extra frustrated. So it's actually the threat of a man is mostly mental.
Yeah.
Because you could have a really muscular dude, but he's like Kronk from Emperor's New Groove, and women will love him.
Yeah.
It's like totally fine. He's doing a tea party or something, which is why I'm like, for guys, you got to soften your image, but know what you want. So trying to be some badass dude with tons of muscles and tattoos, I mean, that'll get you a type of woman.
Yeah.
But women are really good at sniffing out fakes. And if you're
yes.
if you're LARPing, she's just gonna laugh at you.
If that.
And that's why a lot of guys who go into this whole pickup artistry thing, they just get laughed at because it's fake. And women know it's fake. I once went to Nashville and I was just wearing my farm gear, so leather boots, jeans. I had a button-down shirt, and I must have drank. By the way, I'm a legendary drinker, or at least I was. Like I could do a liter of 100 proof whiskey in a sitting, easy peasy.
Nice.
And then still function, and function enough to give a really damn good sales pitch.
Heck yeah.
So I'm just over there getting drinks like crazy, and I'm having way more luck than these pickup artist dudes, and I'm just being nice to people.
Yeah.
So, good eye contact. What do you think about eye contact? Right. What are your thoughts on men and their eye contact?
I'm not the best person to ask because due to my own psychological disorders and whatnot, eye contact's always been typically very bad for me, but there are times when it still works, but I'll just say that I'm not a very good lady to be asking on that particular topic.
I'll give you
for experiences.
No worries. I'll give you my experience.
Okay.
Is that if I maintain eye contact appropriately, and I do it right, I notice it has like a 80% success rate or interest rate. So one of the things I do is I'm super nice to people all the time, just in general.
Right.
But I can kind of tell when a lady is interested, and usually it's a look on her face where she's like, it's almost she's smiling. She's keeping eye contact and she's looking expectant. She looks like she's kind of, is there a like the look someone would give you if you're about to hand them a present.
Okay. And when you said you maintain and hold the eye contact the right sort of way, so what's the right way of doing that?
That's a good question. We're jumping all sorts of subjects. I love it though. But people should get something out of this, right? So maintaining eye contact is if you look her way and she looks over and you're looking at her, don't break that immediately. Don't be the guy who like starts looking away. Because she immediately, for some reason, that actually is a deal breaker. There's nothing you could do after. It's almost nothing you could do after that to get her interest because you've flitted away. That's a really bad first impression.
In your experience, do women tend to flit away and then like come back for more and see if you're still lingering?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say because for me, I can say on my end that I have I've always had a terrible habit of if I'm admiring someone from afar and then he looks over, I will immediately look away and then dare to look again after.
The dare to look again is kind of titillating for the ladies, and he's still looking, but he's not like staring or being weird or anything like that. Usually, I'll have something in
Right.
my hand, and I'll give her a look, and I'll like give her a little head motion, says, "Hey, I see you." So what you're doing with what the man is doing with his eye contact at that moment
Mhm.
is what he's telling her is that I see what I want, and I'm determined to get it, and I'm also not ashamed of it. Women don't want a guy who's attracted to them who's ashamed of being attracted to them.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. Like, it seems like a big turnoff if the guy seems uneasy or uncertain or ashamed of being
Oh,
attracted to the lady.
absolutely. It
Yeah.
is. We don't want to necessarily be just trophies. However, we do want a man who's proud to have us as his.
Here, trophy plus. It is just a
Yeah.
subset of the things you do. Well, the thing is, the guy is supposed to want, and it's his desire that's going to
Mhm.
drive the relationship. Because that
Yeah.
same desire of like, that's the woman I want, I'm going to go talk to her, is the same desire of like, that's the house that I want, I'm going to go and bid on it.
Right.
Or
And it's
that's,
completely
yeah,
it's completely
no, please go.
complementary too because okay, women want to be wanted and we want to take care of someone who wants us. So it just works. They want us, we want to take care of them because they want us. It's a nice little cycle, circle, whatever, nature.
Yeah, I find that women want men whose desire can dominate,
Mhm.
but their discipline can regulate.
Oh, yes, discipline on a guy is amazing.
Yeah, so
Oh,
having
I
the restraint to not like stare wide eyed like a like a weirdo, definitely. Yeah.
right.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember where I heard it because it's been a while, but it was something about how for women, it's not about how powerful a man is that's attractive. It's how he can restrain his power because
Mm,
obviously, basically all men have power over all women especially in terms of uh, physically speaking, in terms of
mm.
like threats or whatnot. But the ones that we find most attractive are those who can clearly show that they're in control of their power. And so we can trust them
Mm.
not to hurt us because we know they won't let themselves get out of hand in that sort of way.
Yes. Yeah, that is a big turn
Mhm.
off for a lot of ladies. It makes you seem like a child or a bull in a china shop if a guy
Yeah.
can't control himself. He's
Mhm.
supposed to be it was like riding on a horse, right? Like if you're riding on a horse and then one
Mhm.
day it like freaks out and throws you off, you're never going to want to ride that horse again.
Um,
It's a it's a big deal breaker. It's a big problem, right? You're not going to people would put a horse down that does that.
shoot. I come from a very different horse world than you do apparently.
Maybe. Yeah. I wouldn't want to ride a horse that had like absolutely freaked out for no reason. Like what I want is I want the horse to be known, a known
Mhm.
quantity to me, but be powerful.
I mean,
Same
that's
thing with
the
a car.
ideal.
Same thing with a
Yeah.
car, actually. Because if you have a car and the car just breaks down on you for no reason, it's like you're not going to want to drive that car anywhere
Right.
and depend
Yeah.
on it. Like you can't depend on it. So that makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense. Like uh the problem with a lot of guys, I guess, is
Mhm.
they go for the powerful thing and they
Yeah.
don't go for the discipline thing. They like to be totally
Yes.
unbridled, out of control,
Ugh.
powerful.
I
And
wholeheartedly agree, and it's such a problem. And they don't even realize it most of the time.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It's good to be able to Hulk out once in a while.
Yes. But you have to have it in control most of the time because women want you to have it in control because we want to see it occasionally as well. However,
Yes.
most of the time you need to be able to show that you can hold yourself in. You've got self-restraint, self-discipline. You know
Hmm.
you're doing with your own power.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when you're trying to be responsible for your own power, that's the first
Mhm.
step to being able to take the back power from the world, like take control of the
Mhm.
world. Because if men are not happy with the world that they live in, like
Yeah.
men have all the ability to do everything. Like another contradiction that lives in the red-pilled manosphere is they'll say like men run the world, we do everything, and yet they don't feel like they're in control of anything. It's like, no, you are in
Right.
control of quite a bit. Like if you wanted
Yeah.
to just be a little bit psychologically self-aware, you would have you'd be in that 20% that has the
Mhm.
80%. You'd be in that 20% of men that have the 80% of women. Because like
Yeah.
I was talking to I would love to go back to Nashville and do this again. I should do this. I wish I could wear a hidden camera or something, but that would be super
Ooh.
unethical. If you're just able to walk up to a girl and talk to her,
Mm-hmm.
you're already in like the 20% in like real life, you know?
Yeah,
If,
yeah.
if you're somewhat presentable, if you can manifest your will on the world just that much, makes a
Mm-hmm.
big difference. Makes
It
a big
does.
difference.
I'll admit, in my experience, I'm 28 years old, by the way, so I've been a lady for that long, and one who's been within the dating, romancing world for at least 10 years, if not a little bit more if you count the teens. And there have been so many instances of when I have thought I've connected with like strangers who were seemed about my age and maybe potentially shared interests out in public, and they could be potential male counterparts, and I desperately have wanted them to come up and say something to me first, and then they just don't. It's
They just
so
don't.
disappointing. It's sad.
Aw. Well, it's not that hard, right? The thing
It's
is, what I
not.
tell guys to do is practice
Hmm.
complimenting strange women
Yeah.
because it will make all of your nervousness go away.
It also
I know a
becomes a
lot.
habit.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's really quite true, and it should be a habit. You should be
Mhm.
complimenting ladies. And here's the thing: is that people don't think of secondary effects.
Mhm.
So if you compliment a lady and you get a smile out of her and all that sort of stuff, she might not be
Mhm.
interested in you, but the other lady who may be standing nearby might
Yes.
be, because for some
Mhm.
reason, whenever a lady thinks that another lady is giving you attention, she will immediately want to start giving you attention. It's I don't know if it's just this competition thing of as soon as someone starts bidding on one man's attention,
Yeah.
every other woman wants it. So
It does
there's
seem to be that way, yes. We all flock to the same, best options.
yeah, she just have to be in the running, right? And that just means
Exactly.
interactions. There's a
Yeah.
great episode of King of the Hill. So there's a character in this show, King of the Hill, named Boomhauer, and
Okay.
he has tons of success with women. And he
Mm.
decides he's going to show Bobby his secret. And
Yeah.
guess what the secret is? Just take a guess. What is his strategy?
Is it just handing out compliments or something?
It's very similar. He just asks a lot of women.
Fair enough,
He,
yeah.
he just asks a lot of women. And like
I
in the show, it shows that about 20 of them reject him for every one that actually takes his phone number or
That's not a
gives
bad
him his.
ratio, though.
It's a really good ratio. You can
Yeah.
clean that up in a weekend, like easily. Just go
Yeah.
down to the
Exactly. How many women does the average guy pass who could be potential options? I mean, yeah.
yeah. I mean, just get used to saying, "Dang, wow, you look really good. Can I
Mhm.
can I have your number?"
Yeah, and then
Just
if she
see
when
where
she
it goes.
does turn you down, just be like, all right, well, it is you basically have to take it in stride too, though, because a guy who's clearly a
The
sore
part,
loser
yeah.
is ugh.
Well, that's
But
a part of self control, isn't it? Like a lot
it
of
is, it
guys
is.
just cannot handle being rejected. Okay,
Mhm.
so the thing is, a lot of women select and train on things that make men successful in life in general. That is not
Right.
a coincidence. Women select
Mhm.
and train on things that men need to have to be successful in
Yes.
life. And the ability to be rejected is 100% a
Mhm.
necessary aspect of being a man that will make you successful. I have
Yep.
asked how many, like, men out there, how many of you have asked for a raise and gave like some really good reasons
Mhm.
and had a good like tagline to go with it
Yeah.
and be like, listen, boss, I know I've been performing to you not only as expected, but I've been coming in a little bit extra. And you know what? Remember that time on the Anderson case? I found that mistake.
Mhm.
It wasn't my job to find the mistake, but I'm here looking out for you. And I know you've got a limited budget, but doesn't it feel so good to just say yes sometimes? It's just something like that. It's like,
Exactly.
and the boss is like, fine, extra percent, extra 2%,
Well,
whatever. It's like it costs you nothing. A bit of your pride, a bit of your dignity, a bit of risk,
maybe.
like maybe having a bit of a source. So for me, when I get nervous, I have a sore stomach, and
Mhm.
then I have to go to the bathroom. Right, it's just a
Yeah.
thing for me.
Mhm.
Like my tummy. JFK, John F. Kennedy, right?
Mhm.
He hated public speaking. He would be tapping
Really?
his foot nervously behind the podium.
Oh.
You look at him though; he's cool as a cucumber. He's trained it.
Right,
He's trained
right.
himself to do that. You can train yourself against your nature, and that's actually what men are supposed to do. Women
Mhm.
women realize their nature and they act accordingly. Men train themselves against their nature while still harnessing its power. Right. So being
Yeah.
an awesome man with a battle axe and clearing a field of battle is great. You don't want to take that home with you. You got to harness that.
No, not at
You got
all.
to,
Well, that's the
yeah.
thing too, though. Women, I mean, you're I you're absolutely correct in that we do sort of. I guess you could say train. I mean, not the friend. Well, it sounds a little awkward, I suppose you could say, to phrase it that way, but I mean, it is technically correct. And the thing is, though, we want to be able to be in positions where we're comfortable and stable enough to do that, because then it betters the man, who then can come home and have support more, better options available for his wife and their family, assuming they've got one at that point, and then that betters their bond. And the next thing you know is an entire cycle that it's self-fulfilling and it keeps itself going, and that she makes him better and then he does better, which makes their whole family life better, at least in general overall, and it just keeps going like that. And these days especially, though, with the guys who are self-pitying, self-loathing, and those who have kind of missed that they have to work on their own the ability to handle themselves. I think a lot of that, though, also has to do with the man's tendency to kind of go soft on women. And then when you have I'd like to say what started out as a select few women who were the first vocal feminists, and then the rest who bought into it, because most women aren't actually into feminism, aren't
No.
diehard about
Yeah.
it. They're just part of it because we all jump on the bandwagon for things. That's just part of
Correct.
our nature. But because of the select few who got it going, and then the others who later joined in without really being for it, you then had men hearing this saying, the women want this, the women want that. And it seems that a man's nature is to make women happy, want her pleased, give her more or less what she wants. And for guys who thought that, okay, well, it's logical that, women have all these same opportunities, that we're treated as all the exact same, and then gave it to us, well, that made women that much unhappier, because then we had to act like men, but then a bunch of women still refused to admit that sort of disconnect and struggle. And now we're at a point where we've flipped roles socially so much that men still want to please women, at least usually, but there's so many angry women who blame men for everything that it seems one of those never ending, or something that would, until you dig deep into it, it comes off as irreparable, the damage that has been done. But I kind of forgot where I was going exactly with that,
No
but it
worries,
was
no worries.
something to do with that.
No worries. There's some truth to that, but the thing is, like, that's what men are supposed to be. They break the cycle by being this pillar that is immovable
Yes.
and righteous.
Right.
Like,
And
so yeah. So right now, guys are providing. So there are some guys who are just
yes.
taking the mantle and saying, "Yes, I will provide a household, and
Right,
this
but
is the
too
deal.
many
You stay
men
home and go ahead."
aren't. Well, I think the issue has to do with so many men bought into the mindset of women want to be, quote unquote, equal and take on men's roles, that they basically let themselves step down. And now there's a whole generation filled with way too many men who aren't willing, if even
I wouldn't generalize
unwanting.
too much. I wouldn't generalize too much, because when you say a whole generation, it makes it sound like every man, or even a lot
Right.
of men. I live in Tennessee. It is an enclave of
Mm-hmm.
tradition. Like,
Okay.
old timers around here say that nothing has changed in 70 years.
Aw.
Yeah,
I
yeah. So it's not
I
like a whole
imagine
yeah.
most of
You
my
live in
state
the
is that way too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, you can't live in a bubble, right? And we got to
Right.
acknowledge that a lot of times we live in bubbles. And that's actually one of the reasons why the
Mhm.
red-pilled manosphere is the way they are, and why they think all women are like this,
Yeah.
is because they don't, like, okay, we were offline and we were talking about this before. When I went
Mhm.
to Tennessee, I saw natural sevens, eights, and nines, blonde girls, like,
Mhm.
fantastic. Not a lot of makeup, like, totally just real women,
Mhm.
very happily and very friendly, just working at Goodwill,
Yeah.
like a regular old retail job. And they're just like, "Hi, y'all, welcome in." It's like, and I'm like looking at her and I'm like, "You would never give me the time of day in Maryland." where I'm from originally,
Right.
right? You'd never give me
Mhm.
the time of day. So your geography makes a big difference. But the thing is, like,
Yeah.
gold doesn't grow in your backyard, guys. Sometimes you got to go out and search for it. Like,
Mhm.
again, Western men have shirked the responsibilities that previous men of all geographies and all generations have had to do. Go out and find a woman. Oh no,
Yeah.
the community hasn't provided me a woman. It's like, no, they're not going to. You're supposed to provide. You're the provider to go out and find it. Prospect.
Right.
Work hard.
Also the
There,
hunter.
well, women are like, there are good women out there. Like, a lot of guys who
Mhm.
say there's no good women, a lot of women who say there's no good men. I'm like, how
Yes.
many do you how many do you run into? Like, how many people do you meet in a day and actually talk to them? And they'll be like, maybe one or two. Is it
Right.
the same one or two every day? Like the lady who serves you coffee, or or the guy at the gas station, right? Like,
Mhm.
you gotta go out and meet people.
That is exactly something I have been toying with in my mind for months, if not at least the past year or two, which is supposedly, from my understanding, just going off what I see online or even in other aspects, there's not just one sex who desperately wants to find the good version of the other sex. And yet, if there's so many of us on both sides, how can none of us seem to find each other when the internet exists? Like, I don't understand.
People are bad at finding each other, and the internet
Right.
does not actually. I don't think the internet helps. I think the internet actually makes things more
Well,
difficult
yes.
because they
In
show off.
theory, though.
Yeah, well, in theory, right? But in practice, it's the Pareto distribution, right? Where
Yes,
women
yes.
all see the same top men and want all the same
Yeah.
top men, and the top men are doing great. Like, they're the only ones who are winning the feminine. Like, the male female war is, like, obviously top men are coming out on top, as they always
That's
do, actually, and
yeah,
throughout entirety of history.
right. It's just now the other men can all come together and commiserate and get a bit annoying about it.
Well, it's the same with the women.
It's
Like,
not their fault.
men
Yes,
men are
it's
men are on
indeed.
Twitter, women are on Tumblr.
I mean, it used to be
As you
Reddit and Tumblr, but yes.
Oh man, Reddit is all the most effeminate men. They are
Is it?
absolute whiny. Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm
I
Tumblr
don't
girl, so I can't.
what when I think of Reddit, I don't think of like a particularly masculine man. I think of like a
Oh,
frustrated IT employee who's
fair
just
enough.
underappreciated at work and deserved that
Okay.
raise that he didn't get. I'm like,
I've only dabbled in Reddit and I didn't really like it. Like I said, I'm
yeah,
Tumblr.
yeah. All the chads and chadettes in real are all the chads and chadettes are in real life. They're IRL all the time.
Well, yes.
Only ever really. Because they have no time, right? We have no
Right.
time. I I was overhearing a conversation
Mhm.
at a Rural King, which is a store for farm supplies. There was a
Right.
person that didn't have an email address.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I'm telling you this.
enviable.
I know this place is awesome. Well, and the funny thing is, I'm out here in real life, and I'm running into. If I go out and just do
Mhm.
my errands, I run into several viable women that do not have rings on their finger, and they're
Darn.
different women. I'm not seeing the same women every day.
Right.
So if I go into town for 2 hours, I probably run
Mhm.
into about 20 women that I could just talk to if I wanted to.
Wow.
Right now, so this is some peak marital advice. Be careful with this advice because it's like fire. If you're
Mhm.
friendly with another woman who isn't your wife in front of your wife,
Mhm.
just normal friendly, not getting like real into it or anything. Just maybe at the most compliment something about what she's wearing or hair. Hair is
Mhm.
usually pretty safe. I like your hair. Compliment
Mhm.
your wife 10 times that many times in that day to remove any issues of possible jealousy. But the thing is, if a lady just looks at you and
Mhm.
smiles, your wife will be all over you. That's
Yes,
that's that is a aphrodisiac like no other. Jealousy is the greatest aphrodisiac. There's
indeed it
another quote for
is.
you.
Well, there was another aspect too I was gonna bring up earlier and then completely left my
Oh,
mind, I
go
think.
ahead. Yeah.
But, in with how that works, I think you and I touched on this the other night as well. When men give a compliment to a woman, for
Hmm.
the woman, it's different than if a woman were to give the same compliment the man just did. For whatever
Well, there's a
reason.
sexual undertone because of the different
Yeah.
sexes, right? Like, it's like, oh, there might be there even if it's 1% chance, there might be some
Mhm.
interest. Hmm.
Yeah. So a guy gives a compliment, and even if it is purely friendly, our our minds, without even realizing that we're doing it, it's like, oh, maybe he's more than friendly though. So
So it's a great way of opening. So This is a really good sales tactic in general.
Yeah.
And I learned everything I need to know from sales by dealing with women.
I mean, you gotta sell yourself, yeah.
Yes, exactly. If you could sell yourself, you could sell anything.
So true.
You have to plant ideas without
Mm-hmm.
championing them. You have to detach yourself from the ideas that you're trying to espouse.
Right.
So if I compliment a woman, I'm not actually saying I'm sexually interested in you. That idea is now detached from me because there's no traceability to it.
Right. Okay.
It is planted in her brain now, and she's going to think about it. And I didn't have to do jack squat except say she had nice earrings.
And we're naturally overthinkers.
Yeah. Take advantage of that, guys. And now she's giving me looks while I'm walking out the door, and I give her a little smile on the way out. And I don't have to do jack. I didn't do anything. I said nice earrings, and I smiled at her on the way out. Didn't mean anything.
Yes.
But next time I come in there, right? So the thing is, Rome wasn't built in a day. And doing these like one-liners or whatever to get women's attention doesn't always work the best. It's actually better if you are seeing them somewhat often. Like it's a nice treat.
Right.
It's not, maybe it's regular, maybe it's not. If it's irregular, it could take advantage of the Skinner box phenomenon of variable reward for variable input. Think of it like this: like if you're pulling a slot machine, you don't know how many times. Every one of those times they pull it could be a jackpot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So every time you walk into that coffee shop, it could be the day that you're going to ask her out. Now, obviously, you got to pay out once in a while.
Right.
So maybe you give her a little nicer compliment, or maybe you. This is a bit more manipulative than I usually do, but go in there and just make your order and go like give a big sigh. I was like, oh, I got stood up, and I feel what's a good coffee for a guy who's been stood up. And she's gonna be like, "Oh, poor baby!" Like
exactly.
Now she wants to take care of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god, this is so evil. This is like the dentist system, except that the thing is,
it actually evil though?
No, it's not. If you have good intention, right? It's all about the follow through. So manipulation for their benefit is just called persuasion.
Exactly.
If she's gonna benefit from this, and she's gonna, so all these strategies I do, by the way, I just tell my wife. I just straight up tell her. Because it makes good conversation, and she thinks I'm smart because of it.
Yeah, win-win. Wins all around.
And she also trusts me because, like, why would you tell me this if you didn't trust me?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, trust me. Yeah, it takes time. Like, obviously, we've been married for 10 years now.
It really is all wins.
And the thing about a lot of guys is they don't want to lay the groundwork. They don't want to meet people. They don't want to meet. Part of being a man is being in uncomfortable and possibly unrewarding and sometimes dangerous situations. And there is a feminine reason to be afraid of being a social outcast, because in the tribal world, that meant you're dead.
Yes.
Like you've been kicked out of the tribe. You're super dead. Guy's not going to get kicked out of the tribe for just saying some things. He might get like slapped in the face, or someone's going to take some ashes from the fire and throw it at him. Right. But there's a lot of guys. If you're competent, you get to just say whatever you want as a guy.
Basically. Yeah.
Right. So guys, you are highly feminine if you are afraid to say what's on your mind and you don't have the competency to make up for that.
Well, I want to counter that a little bit though.
Oh, sure.
In that, because we're talking about the manosphere and how it's the same side of the coin, or not same coin, other side. But in the whole modern West situation where we are seeing these more effeminate men and stuff, I think there is a substantial reason for men to be afraid of saying things that in the past or in other places of the world, other cultures, it isn't at all a problem for them to say. And I would chalk that up to the feminization of the government and such like that.
Right, of the world, right?
I mean, look at the Me Too movement, for example. How many women took advantage of that, and how many men are afraid to even look at a woman, let alone approach her?
Well, I'm certainly not one of those guys, but the thing is, like, men, if you can be controlled by a feminized, all right, so a lot of guys will say like the world has been feminized or it's gynocentric or something like that. I've heard the word. Guys, if you're able to be controlled by that, then I'm going to take your man card right now. If you are not able to say the thing that needs to, if you're not able to express yourself in that world, you need to get a little bit smarter, get a little bit more clever, because there have been men who are in kingly courts who are able to advise the king and basically tell the king that he's wrong and do so in a way that doesn't end up with his head on a pike. Like
Right.
having the ability to maneuver around social mores is part of what makes you a guy. Like that's a fearless sailor in uncertain seas.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes you just don't sail in certain seas, right? You can sometimes just say like, well, I'm not even gonna. It's like for me, I don't date anyone I go to school with or I work with because my reasoning was I don't want her to be able to find me at any time of the day.
Fair.
I want to have my
Yeah.
separate. Yeah, I want to have my separate time. This is my world. That's your world. We never the twain should ever meet, except for like at the picnic where it's like, hey guys, this is my wife. You know, that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's certain things I don't do because it's dumb, but like guys, be a certain way when you're at work, or if you're competent enough, you will not. It's not necessarily you won't get fired. I got fired for not taking a jab. Right. I just found a job immediately after because I was qualified. I was not concerned. I arranged the job. Actually, it's pretty slimy what I did as a salesman. I arranged a job. I agreed to work in 2 weeks. In that 2 weeks, I found a better job, and then I declined that first job, and then I worked at the better job. All told, I had an entire month off in which I managed to find a bunch of birch butcher block countertops for sale.
Yeah.
Like half off, right? So 4x8 panels for like $100. It was a steal. So I just redid all of the kitchen counters, and I bought a new farm sink. Like it was a huge sink. It's huge. I could fit. You could like wash like 5 babies in that baby, right? Like you could. I could almost get into there. I could probably fit my dad in there. He's like 5'6" or something. He's a tiny man. He's a little Asian fella, right? So he married a tall woman. They got a tall son. I just redid all the kitchen countertops. I was doing a ton of carpentry. I routed all of them. I even like showed my wife a swath of different routing corners, and I let her choose. Right, my competency was that I could work with wood, and I brought in the swatch, and I said, "Which textures do you like?" You know, and she got to choose which one. She got to choose the stain. I gave her a stain swatch and all that sort of
she
stuff.
was
I was like,
happy.
yeah, she loves the countertops.
I'm sure.
I let her put the final coating on it, the polyurethane. Looks really good. She's really good with that detailed work, and it was a big, it was a big load off of my mind because I suck with I always get bubbles in mine, so it was nice to have her do it. But yeah, like a lot of guys cannot maneuver these waters and they're frustrated. I'm like, you better learn from someone who does. Like, most guys don't have friends. Okay, most guys don't have friends.
Can you explain more on that, please?
Most Gen Zs have like maybe 1 or 2 friends, if that.
How are we defining friend? Let's say.
A friend, if I was going to define friend, a friend is someone who would let you sleep on their couch if things got real bad. That's a friend.
Shoot, I don't even know if I have many of those, if any.
Yeah, I've got like 5 or 6 of them.
Dang,
that's a lot of couches. I can serve couches for a while. So those friends are your support network. Like that's how you can be brave. Like there's very few times in history where a man stood alone and was brave. Even Leonidas had 300 Spartans.
Yeah.
Like he took them with him. You know, it's you got to have some guys that have your back, and most guys don't have friends.
I mean,
I don't know
Jesus
what the situation is with women, but sorry, go ahead.
I said even Jesus had friends. He had the apostles.
That's true. Everyone has support. Everybody has some. You're supposed to.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys are out there on their own and they're scared. And I gotta say, guys, if you're scared and you're not building your own friend network, you're feminine. You're waiting for the world to give you something, or you're cowering in fear of what the world will do to you.
Right.
Like, well, yeah, no wonder you're afraid to talk to women. No wonder you're afraid of Me Too. I didn't even know Me Too was going on. I just knew it was a bad idea to mix romance and work, right? Yes, it's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that.
Well, I mean, I tend to fall in the line that I think most women don't really want to be in the workforce anyway, at least not in that sort of sense.
Yeah,
I mean, there are realms where we would naturally be working anyway, but it's still one of those things where I do feel bad for men who now would be on eggshells all the time just because there's a woman in the office who might be flaunting herself because, she's got to have the power or whatever. And I don't know. I will say, like most other women, I don't think too fondly of women.
Yes, yeah, no, and
We
these
don't
really
like each other.
no, yeah, the pit of vipers is what my wife always says.
Oh, it
Pit of
is.
vipers. Yeah,
Yeah.
the women have a lot to offer, but they are a force of nature because their
Yes.
survival is so tenuous and
Mhm.
their role is so resource intensive
Yeah.
that nature had to pretty much take the wheel and commands women to do things for their own survival and propagation.
Oh, it makes us monsters, man. It really does.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, you got to learn how to ride the horse. Like guys,
Yeah.
like a horse is like a thing of nature too, and you got to learn how to
Yeah.
just ride it, or else it'll throw
Mhm.
you off. Like be a knight. You guys want to return with a little V for you, right? You guys want to go into battle riding horses. Like you
Yeah.
can't handle a woman, you're not gonna be able to handle a horse.
Oh, geez, no. And the knight in shining armor thing, I know it's popular, trendy right now to discount that and be like, "Oh, we don't need a knight in shining armor." No, we want to be the damsels in distress. We want a knight in shining armor. That's just how it actually is.
Yes, yeah,
It's
dude.
our nature.
A guy should be taking care of that stuff, taking care of all
Yeah.
this stuff. And the thing is, these guys can't even take care of themselves. So it's like, what are you gonna
Oh,
do?
no.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna enjoy being the 20%. Y'all can, and the rest of the guys can stay mad, but I will totally help
Right.
you. If you have ears to listen, I will help any guy under the sound of my
Yeah.
voice. And this is what it is. And the thing is, I would like to just tell all the guys out there is that there is always hope. If
Mhm.
you are black pilling, then you have become uh, a woman. You've failed in
The worst
your,
kind too.
yeah, the worst. You're a low feminine woman.
Mhm.
You've failed as a man. You were
Yeah.
supposed to be the font of hope. You're supposed to be the civilization builder, not
Right.
the unhappy resident of someone else's civilization, right? Like
Mm-mm.
where I was like, I don't have friends. Like, what did you do to build a friend group?
Right.
Like, you could build your own friend group. Like, how many men have you complimented? How many guys have you met?
Yeah.
You can you put away your anxiety long enough to sit and just listen to a person talk for a little while? Like,
Exactly.
I was in the rain the other day, and my neighbor
Mhm.
saw me putting up this fence, and he came out and started talking to me.
Oh,
Um, and I'm just like getting rained on, and he's
yeah.
getting rained on, and we're talking about huckleberry bushes or some other
That's
nonsense.
awesome though.
And I'm like, you know what? And the thing is, yeah, if someone wants the time of your day, give them the time of your day.
Mhm.
That you'll make so many friends doing that.
Yeah.
Uh, the Another problem that guys have is they get their expectations completely distorted by the manosphere, the red-pilled manosphere. And the thing is,
Mhm.
again, I'm going to say manosphere is factually correct.
Right.
They're factually correct. Now, what they do with those facts is where they screw up. They have no
Yes.
call to action. There's other than just stay away from women. They have cooties, you know.
Right, which isn't helping anything at all. It's just worsening the problem.
Exactly. So, how does that change? How have you seen men's expectations or men's impression of the world been influenced by
Um,
the manosphere? What have you seen of that, or just
it's
changed in general? Right.
yeah. So before I was ever aware of the manosphere, so when I still mostly saw more effeminate feminist type men, it was ridiculous trying to date because a lot of them were like, "Oh, but we should be equals, and so you should have a job, and I shouldn't have to pay for everything." And it's like, "Whoa, sir, no,
Really?
that was lame." But now,
Oh,
well, I
okay.
figure I live in the most liberal part of
Oh,
my
that's right.
red state.
Yeah.
I'm in St. Louis from yeah. It's crazy here, but once you get like an hour out, it's pretty sane and based. But the thing is, since the manosphere stuff, there's still those guys who are, feminist leaning, gross, whatever. But then there's also now men who are closer to what women want, but they're so angsty, and that brings its own problems. And I
These
think a thing that women could actually do though is lean into their femininity more. Guys want to have a nice traditional looking and acting woman to take care of. You find a bunch of very very modern women actually prefer the men they supposedly hate so much.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, there's some
there's a reason for it. Yeah.
dude. If she's angry at you, you've
She
got a
cares.
way better in. Yeah, you're You're like one judo move away from just turning that into
Mhm.
some of the best you know what of your entire life.
It's so
So,
true though, because if we're not interested, we're not gonna bother being mad at you.
yeah, don't ever disgust her and never bore her. Those are
Yeah,
the only two things that'll actually be a turn off. But if you
as
piss her
long
off,
as we're interested still. If we're
yeah.
acting at you, you know you're still in.
Yeah, so what is the unrealistic or unattainable? Has there been any unrealistic or unattainable expectations that have been made by the manosphere for guys? Because I see a lot of
Um,
frustration. Like,
I would
look at stuff
say
like yeah, look at stuff like Liver King. Look at stuff like oh, you got to be a man. You got to do this. You got to do eat that, drink this. You got to work
mm,
out. You got to
that sort of
tan
stuff.
this part of yourself. Yeah, so good.
So, I haven't seen too much of that necessarily. However,
Mm,
there's almost a lack, in what they present as expectations that I would argue is taking a bigger, issue in that I'm trying to think how I would best phrase this that would make the most sense.
mm,
Um, it almost because it isn't exactly that they're making it so a lot of the men who look to the manosphere for help and guidance end up lazy because I don't think most of the guys are actually promoting that, but at the same time, what you see is a lot of the guys who get into it and follow it and exist within that realm end up
mm,
wanting command of their woman without actually respecting her or taking his role as he actually genuinely should be. It's a
mm.
hard thing to exactly explain, but essentially they end up being lazy and not rising to what they
Oh
actually should be
yeah.
rising to.
Yeah, this is a little bit of what we touched on earlier is that like a lot of
Yeah,
guys will think they want authority and leadership and they're not actually embodying what they're
right.
supposed to be to earn that, right?
Yeah, and they still expect the woman to be perfectly feminine and everything else like that. And it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for guys,
Mhm.
if you're doing your job right, she will be feminine without you asking.
Oh, she'll want to be. She'll try to be
Yeah,
more so.
if she's being more masculine, it's because she thinks that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh, definitely. Women will step up and we get resentful about it, but we will step up into more masculine roles if there is a male around who is not doing it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Exactly. Like you should be able to be relied upon from someone.
yeah.
But like the other thing is that you're just your temperament, right? Your
Mhm.
temperament and your like most guys don't have a routine.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't
true.
wake up at the same time of day every day. They're not doing
Mhm.
like I've got a checklist that I actually go through every day to make sure I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. It covers
Nice.
everything from read my Bible for 15 minutes to brush my
Mhm.
teeth to do my push-ups. I used to be able to do 50. I'm up to 40 again. Every time you stop doing an exercise, it's like you start
Mhm.
over again. It sucks. I really
Right.
should just stick with stuff. But um like all these different things to take care of myself so I can and just be
Mhm.
sticking to that, right?
Well, there's
Is a point
stability
of
in that.
and the thing is the stability. I think now correct me if I'm wrong. I
Mhm.
feel like women want their men to be really stable so the woman can kind of go off the
Mhm.
deep end once in a while.
Oh, absolutely. We wanna be protected from ourselves in a lot of instances because we know, even if we don't admit it, we know we get crazy and overwhelming and out of hand at times, and sometimes, sure, you'll have to let us go a little bit, but we wanna be reined back in, and then we wanna be coddled and taken down again, and then we would just wanna be cared for. We need men who can look out for us from ourselves, because if he can't even protect us from ourselves, how's he gonna protect us from
Mm.
anything else?
Yes, and also your children, right? Like this, again, I was
Yeah.
saying that women are creatures of their nature because nature is not going to. Nature has to
Mhm.
take the wheel when it comes to women because they're
Right.
so vulnerable and they're also their procreation is so resource intensive. So
Yeah, I
women
mean,
will
there
be
is no
attracted to.
nature, so
I'm sorry, what?
oh, I was gonna say that there is no nature if women don't rely so heavily on our nature, because then there's no more people.
Right, right, exactly. Yes, all that is hanging in the balance. It's too
Mhm.
important. So the uh, instinct, the
Mhm.
instinctual urges of women is way more strong than it is for men.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
which is why men are also like instinctually don't really self-preserve. We're kind of like dodos. It's like we just
Oh, it's
like
so true though. I've
we're,
seen it.
we're we're suicide. We're super. We could be super dumb and super stupid, and it's the same guy. Like
Yeah.
I once knew a
Well, super
scientist, a
smart and
quantum
super cute.
physicist who decided to go out in the forest and eat some mushrooms just to
Oh.
see what would happen. I was like, how could you be that stupid? You're a quantum physicist. You're like ultra
Uh,
smart. He's like, I don't know. He's like, that's literally what he said. He's like, I don't know. It's like you're such a boy.
it's
But
beautiful though. It's cute.
so the thing is, ladies will have these instinctual urges, but those instinctual urges are not always in
Mm-mm.
Congress with the modern world that we have. And that is
Oh,
actually
definitely not.
that is actually the overriding thing. So men are letting go, but there's a ton of opportunity because women do want men to save women from modernity.
Mm-hmm.
But to do that, men have to be very powerful, have to step up,
Yes.
which is why you
Yep.
got some guys who have like multiple wives right now.
Right. I actually got into a conversation online, on Twitter, I believe it was, the other day on this very topic, and they were asking, "So what are men supposed to do?" And this person was basically trying to say that I was promoting that men get violent with women, which is not at all what I'm saying, obviously. But I basically said, "No, if guys don't just go for any woman that throws herself at them or puts any sort of interest, women will change." Most women, like I said earlier, aren't actually that invested in the feminist movement. They just jumped
No,
on
they're
for the
not.
bandwagon, and that's just it, we're highly social. Our species
Yep.
is already social. Women are even more social. And the thing is, though, if men would just be choosier and hold themselves to standards, like any sort of standard at this point, women would start
Mm,
changing en masse.
yes. Yeah. So the feminist movement really only succeeds if men's self-imposed standards are eroded.
Right.
How has that happened though? How is men's self standards eroded? Is it public school? I feel like that's one of the biggest cultural people talk about cultural forces, right? People talk
Yeah.
about cultural forces like, oh, politics is downstream from culture, but culture, what is more culturally relevant than every child from K through 12 spending 8 hours a day looking and paying attention to the person talking? Like Coca-Cola would murder for that
Yeah, it
level
would.
of exposure.
I'm
So
reflecting on my experience with public school. Ugh.
the problem with
Um.
one of the problems with public school while you're thinking about that, one of the problems with
Mhm.
public school that I will say from my own experience is yes, there are not great standards.
Right.
Guys don't care about what other people think. We care about truth and we care about power. We
Mhm.
we care about getting more powerful. And when I write a BS essay about Shakespeare from the lens of whatever, I don't feel like I'm getting more powerful. I feel like I'm just doing a thing to please the teacher. So all I'm doing is
Yeah.
spending 8 hours a day pleasing teacher. And it's like, what the hell? So, and I don't feel powerful. So I've
Right.
completely foregone any sort of relevance that I have to the outside world. And I've just subsumed myself to this instructor who is there purely as a position of authority. By the
Mhm.
time I'm 14 years old, I am fully conscious that I'm smarter than this person.
Right.
Um, and I have to degrade myself to please them if I want to get what I want. It's this, it's like taking a dog that is from nature. Let's take a wolf and you put it into a cage and
Mhm.
you make it do cute little tricks to get
Right.
food. And it's like
Yeah.
half starved in there.
Right.
And by the time it comes out, it's been institutionalized. So I think
Mhm.
that's most of it. I think that's
Yeah,
most of it. What do you think?
I can actually add to that because, especially when I was back in school, I ran with the more, I suppose you could say, intellectually elite students, and we all had very, very strong opinions about how the system was and how awful it was and things
Mm,
that would make it better. And I remember one of our biggest complaints then that I think has only become truer since I was in the system is that it's basically a daycare for teenagers and kids. It
yep.
gets to a point where they're only there just to keep them off the streets and from getting into trouble or messing around. And a lot of the students would have to try to fail and not graduate. It's that ridiculous. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm at a point where public school is already pretty against human nature as is on multiple levels. And that's a whole topic of its own. But if we're going to have something like public school, I'd almost feel like it would need to be only for select students, or if it's something I believe is it maybe how like the Germans do it, where they have different kinds of schools for different groups of students depending on what their natural inclinations and abilities are. So there would be one specifically for teens more inclined to go into the trades, and then there's one for more the scholastic types, etc. Um, but overall, I have quite the distaste for the public school system.
No, it's a one size fits all solution. Even the
Yes.
honors classes aren't really that different from other. I
No.
mean, it changes from school to school,
Mhm.
but man, I was lucky enough that in my senior year I got a internship,
Mhm.
and that internship took me away from the school for about 4 hours a day. I had a
Lucky.
half day, so at lunch I was off to work making
Mhm.
money, like
Oh,
$9.35
nice.
an hour
Heck
in
yeah.
2005, which is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, and I will say too, the honors and advanced placement courses, they for the kids who spent all of their core classes in those realms, which again I was among them, it just made us elitist a-holes. We thought we were hot stuff. We thought we were gonna
oh
come out and
man,
rule the world. We thought very
yep.
terribly of the regular students and especially like the remedial students or students who were the dropout sorts, I suppose you could say. And it was
I'm gonna coin
awful.
this. I'm gonna coin this as scholastic whiplash.
Yes, that's a good
Scholastic
term.
whiplash. Yeah, like you think you're on top of the world, and then you hit the real
Mhm.
world, and it just absolutely
Oh,
humbles you.
there's
And
a
now you
reason
feel like a
why
piece. Yeah,
yeah, there's a reason why, gifted kid syndrome is a thing, and it's a term now. It's so real, and it's so bad.
that's why I like being an engineer. Like
Mhm.
you know you're retarded, and you remain retarded until the thing works, and then you
Nice.
sit there and see if it stops working, and you're just biting your nails. I've never met an engineer who was
Mhm.
any good who wasn't humble. All engineers who are good
Mm.
are humble because that thing might blow up and you're going to
Mhm.
have egg all over your face. So you're checking every number. When
Yeah.
someone asks me, "Hey, what is, is this thing going to work?" If I say yes, I will later on go back and do the math again. I'll
Well,
always do the math, like run another simulation,
yeah.
do some more math, give it more stress test. You know,
Right.
uh,
Well, that has something okay.
no, go ahead.
That has something to do with practicality as well, though, in which when you fail, you just have to durability. You have to find a new solution that would work better or also work, so that sort of thing. It reminds me of it was actually a bit of a joke that I had come across at one point, and my delivery here won't do it any justice, but it was basically someone told both an engineer and a mathematician that whoever could get so close to, as to actually completely touch and be next to a scantily clad woman near like or in a room or something would win a bunch of money, and the mathematician ends up, but that's impossible technically speaking, or maybe it's a physicist, technically speaking, you know, the atoms or whatever can't actually touch, so there's no way to actually touch her, whereas the engineer, walks over, puts his hand on her, he's like, well, this is good enough, I did it. So there's something to say about that as well, I think.
Well, we don't let the world get in our way. Like we
Yes.
don't let circumstances dictate our results. Where our
Yeah,
job is to defy circumstances and
and
get
make it
you what
work.
you want. Yeah, exactly. So, um, people think very highly of scientists, and scientists are a bunch of pencil necks. I could crush them under my foot. Engineering has been a discipline for 8,000 years.
Yeah,
Science has been a discipline for about 200, maybe
depends how
300.
you define science.
Sir Francis Bacon. No, the
Mm,
formalization of the scientific method. Now,
okay.
people can do science like here and there, but if it's not a
Yeah.
method, then it's not a science, right? Like um because it's not good enough
Mm,
to have 90% of the scientific method and then 10% is here be dragons, right? It taints it, right? You can't have that magical thinking in there as well. The science is
mm,
valuable and only defined by its purity.
potentially. I'm
I
debating if
would
this
say
is something I'd ever want to actually debate. I'm not sure my stance yet.
sure, sure. Well, think about it. We can always return to that
Yeah.
later, but
Mhm.
because I've been thinking about this for 15 years, so
Dang. Okay.
I
All
don't want
right.
to. I never want to debate when I have an advantage. I'll give you a few weeks to catch up, at least a couple weeks. But
Okay.
engineering has been a discipline that has been put to the test
Hmm.
throughout all of history. Every pyramid, every building,
Yeah.
Like every building that couldn't be built from trial and error. So if someone says like, well,
Mm,
these huts from Egypt, those are engineered. It's like, no, they weren't. They were made by trial and error until eventually they got a design that worked and they stuck with it.
right.
Pyramids were not built by trial and error. The stakes are too high. It's too expensive. It's too much
Yeah.
time. Aspects of it could be trial and error. Like trial and error is
Mhm.
a tool that engineers use,
Mhm.
but it is not the method. You have to have the ability to like when the difference between a professional and an amateur is not the ability to get a job done. It's
Right.
the reliability that you can get the job done.
Okay.
It, like when you look at anybody who picks up a bat can have a lucky swing and knock the
Mhm.
ball out of the park.
Right.
Anybody, but Babe Ruth is a professional because he would point to where he's going to send it and then he'd send it there.
Right.
And that's what engineers are meant to do. We can't trial and error a helicopter into flight because we'd go through so many test pilots it wouldn't even be funny.
Yeah.
We cannot
Okay.
have a bunch of there aren't a bunch of trial and error like pyramid attempts. There's not the great pyramid attempt of Giza, you know. Is that
Hmm.
so? And also like people their lives depend on it.
Right.
It was a penalty in I forget if it was where in the ancient world it was. It might have been ancient Israel, it might have been ancient Egypt. But
Mhm.
if a house collapsed,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
I think it was like the son of the carpenter, like either the carpenter we put to death or like the carpenter's
Yeah.
son or something like that.
I've heard about that as well. That's something I
Yeah,
also learned
I don't
about.
know if it's apocryphal or not, but it's pretty close to the sentiment at least.
It
Um,
is.
like like Caesar setting up the battlements to fight Vercingetorix,
Mhm.
the Ashurbanipal pulling together the ancient Assyrian war engineers
Mhm.
to lay siege. Like people's lives depend on it. So, and if you don't,
Yeah.
uh, if you don't do your job right as an engineer, you get put to
Mhm.
death, uh, or you pilloried or exiled. Like bad things happen to you. I knew guys who worked on the O rings for the Challenger.
Oh dang, that's
Oh no,
awesome.
sorry, Columbia. Yeah, they worked on the
Oh.
replacement O rings for the Columbia. They
Oh
worked on
no.
the replacement ones that management decided not to use because it would have been too much
Oh.
time to retrofit them. But people who worked on
Hmm.
that killed themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, people that worked on
Yeah,
that killed.
they
They had
did.
mental breaks and killed themselves. It's so. Anyways, got to get results. You don't have all the
Yes.
information. You don't have all the time, and people are relying on you. Like if engineers had the failure rate
Mhm.
allowed by science, um, it would probably be 90% failures because most scientific studies are not reproducible.
Right. Well, I
So
have a
them as a
question then for you.
oh, go ahead.
So, in this case, on the manosphere topic, with what we're trying to help out with people who are struggling in the current culture, society, are I suppose you're suggesting that too many people are sticking closer to the scientific method or way of things and how scientists end up with so many failures, whereas they need to be going more for the uh, engineer type approach, correct?
Yes, yeah,
I
it's a
said
good
that
way to bring
poorly.
that back, by the way. So I get way on my high horse there. The engineering way is an unbroken. If I really wanted to, I could probably trace my engineering background all the way back to ancient Egypt because we do make our
Nice.
way around. We do make our way
Yeah,
around
that makes
because
sense.
my engineering background comes directly from Cambridge University.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah,
because I didn't go to Cambridge, my professor went to Cambridge, and those who
right.
came and Cambridge was a lightning rod for scientific thought. But
Yeah, well, that's
it's
sort
a
of like
long
a it's sort of a survival of the fittest type of thing, though. Even with genes, I mean, we see
correct,
mostly
correct.
those that have survived this far, and those that
We
didn't, well,
respect
they're not
tradition.
here. Yeah.
Yes, we respect tradition and we eschew innovation.
Mhm.
Um, and we also look at results. We look at results and we
Right.
test those results. We don't have a we have a meritocracy. We do not have authority figures that
I was
stand
gonna
outside of the
say.
meritocracy. Like we would not look at someone like the Liver King and think,
Mm.
oh, that's a we should do that, right? Because one of the ways that you can tell if something is a good idea or not is look at a teacher
Mhm.
and judge the teacher on his students. Look at his
Yeah,
students and see how well those students are doing. And that'll tell you
exactly.
everything you need to know about the teacher and their school of thought. Because you might have just
Absolutely.
had you might have a guy who's BSing you or just got lucky. Yeah, sorry.
Right, and that goes for just about anything. I mean, the teacher's role is to make sure their students, are successful, and if the students overall aren't being successful, I mean, is the teacher really worth it? So
No, the teacher's not by definition.
Exactly.
The teachers, engineers also throw out things that don't work. We have no emotional. You can't afford to have an emotional attachment to your preferred implementation, right? Like, imagine if there was an engineer that just wanted to use AI to solve every problem. Like, you get fired.
Right.
You have to use it doesn't matter how much you like a solution or not.
Right.
You have to use what gets you results. Oftentimes it's stuff that you don't like. Oftentimes the best course of action is not something you want to do. So a lot of guys are not looking at who's getting results. They're angry at the guys who are getting results because they are emotionally jealous of the 20% of dudes. And they're saying, I can't do it. It's not worth it. I'm not going to analyze. Like, okay, when an engineer has a good example, we do a teardown. A teardown is we look at it. What makes this product good? Let's tear it apart. Let's look at it. Okay, how much is looks? Like, say for a guy, right? How much of this guy's stuff is looks? How does he talk? What here attracts the women, right? Because I don't think women are attracted to looks as much. As much. Yeah, for serious relationships, a guy's looks is more a part of his story.
Yeah.
So if you come in there and you tell the story that you're a fat slob who doesn't take care of himself, yeah, she's gonna, But if you go in there and tell the story that you do take care of yourself and take the time and the discipline, like being physically fit takes discipline. Indeed. So that already tells her that you can keep yourself in check. But I digress. A lot of these guys are not looking at what's making other men successful and trying to replicate that or carve out a little bit. They get bitter. And if you're angry and you're bitter, you are now becoming emotionally attached. It's a coping mechanism. You're coping.
Yeah.
And that's not very attractive.
Right. And it can also be used instead of a coping mechanism and just getting bitter and all that. It can be rerouted and reworked into something positive. It doesn't have to be awful. You can use it instead to make yourself better and even challenge yourself to go even above and beyond the guys you're seeing out there. And, at least for your personal self, you could be like, yes, I know I'm doing better and I know I'm doing best for myself. But a lot of guys, as you said, they just don't. Instead, they just give up and don't even try anymore when they still could try and work on themselves and actually make progress and be happy.
And again, like the thesis statement I have right now, the manosphere is turned. I don't know how it always was. I've only been exposed to it in the last 2 years. The manosphere has become hyper feminized. They are women. Yeah. They have become women.
Basically.
Because, and I would say to any man who is in the manosphere, who is angry they're not getting dates, I'd say, like, are you fat? First off, like, are you fat? I'm gonna channel my dad, my Asian dad, like, you're so fat. Stop being fat. It's like, it's literally, it's a zero cost solution to that. It's just stop eating so much. I once told a girl that when I was a young teenager and I could not control my emotions that well. She was baiting for compliments. I didn't know what she was doing, but she kept doing the thing. I was like, oh, I'm getting kind of fat. And really what she wanted was me to just lavish her with praise. She was fine, by the way. She was not
beautiful. Fat. Right.
Yeah, she was the ballerina. She was pretty hot. Like, I was like, first thing I was like, damn, no, you're not. I mean, I should have laid it on thick. I think she wanted like a serious lacquering of compliments. But I gave her like a quick compliment of like basically just a compliment. When a woman says that she's feeling fat or she's feeling ugly, a compliment is very similar to a dismissal.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't do that, guys. Don't just be like, no, you're fine. No, you just, what I did was the absolute wrong thing to do. And eventually I just told her to stop eating so effing much because she kept going back and forth of like, and I'll be damned if I didn't take my own advice and I lost 30 pounds in like 2 or 3 months.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, just stop eating so effing much. It's really easy to lose weight, guys. Stop. Yeah. Like, find something else to do. I don't know, chew gum. Like, if you want mouthfeel, get a Soda Stream and just put some water and a lime or some piece of fruit. Because it'll be a way of you taking a very small quantity of fruit, squeezing it into a juice and getting that soda feel. So you'll be able to cut soda out like that. But
interesting.
You're gonna feel hungry for like the first 3 weeks.
Dang.
But then you'll just get used to it. It's really easy to go on a diet. So do that. So if you're not having luck with the ladies, lose weight because you're telling her a lot. It's way deeper than just not being attractive. It's telling her a lot about your discipline level, telling a lot about your self-love level, how much you regard yourself, your self-respect.
Indeed.
So that's like, if you can't manage that, then don't be blaming women. That's like if I didn't put oil in my car and I'm blaming Toyota because my car broke down. Like,
right.
Dude, grow some balls, man. Be a man. Be a man. It's like don't blame women for not wanting. It's like, oh, I it's like a baker who just has like awful moldy bread. He's like, oh,
Ooh.
these customers are so stupid. They don't want to buy my bread. They're so
Okay, but women
surface
do
level.
that all the time, and with themselves, and I can see
Oh
the
yeah.
bleed over with now
Well,
men also doing the same
exactly.
thing. It's just a problem for all.
Exactly. Exactly. Women do it all the time. My thesis
Mhm.
statement is the manosphere red pilled are becoming women.
Yeah.
Dude, it's not double standards, it's different standards. Like, yeah, women are gonna do it all the time. Yeah. Well,
Exactly. It
is it
is, yeah.
men asking? I don't actually mind MGTOW that much, but you gotta ask yourself, guys, is it worth it?
Right.
Is it worth is it not worth is it worth putting up with a few annoying things or a little bit of neuroticism or
Mhm.
maybe or just hopefully it's worth putting yourself together and being a proper man
Right.
just in and of itself as its own thing. So that's not
Should
an
be
additional
fulfilling.
cost. Yeah. That's not an additional cost. Like if
Mhm.
you ask yourself, is it worth it to deal with these? And I think it is. I think it
Yeah.
100% is because women are pretty great in a lot of ways. And I'll let you guys think about those ways on your own time. But
And women, it goes in reverse too. So just throwing that out there.
yeah, yeah, is it worth it to deal with this occasionally sweaty, burpy man who will not stop trying to tell you about Warhammer or something? Like, by the
And
way,
yeah. Yeah.
men get into their special interests, like get into their interests, and we will not shut up about it.
It's so true though. Men are
But
naturally somewhat autistic and women are naturally somewhat psychotic. I'm convinced at this point.
that's
Yeah, some
hilarious.
have it more so that they get diagnosed, but generally
Oh,
speaking, we all have a base level.
yeah, my wife says if you marry the thing about engineers, the thing about being
Mhm.
married to an engineer is that if you ask him how something works, or if you ask him, he's going to explain it.
Mhm.
There was one time she said, as an example, it's like, if I asked you, Alex, why the sky is blue, you'd go on for half an hour. And I just started explaining. I didn't even think about what she'd said. I just like, well, the sky is blue because of the diffusion and the fact that blue light tends to scatter more. And I was like, she just looked at me like,
Did she turn the timer on?
nah, she didn't turn the timer on. She just looked at me. She looked at me. I stopped. I was like, oh yeah, you're totally right. Like, I just like, hey babe, you got me pegged. Which is
Well,
nothing wrong with that. Be a known men. You're not supposed to be a mystery. You're supposed to be a known quantity, and then have a couple surprises here
mhm.
and there, right?
Exactly, that's the best way. Yes. We wanna know what's going on. We wanna know you're stable. Surprise us here and there for fun, but yeah, you're supposed to be
Yeah,
secure. You're supposed to be our rocks.
yeah, dude. Guys, if you're upset that women are not fair to you, it's like, well, welcome to life, right? Like, be
Right.
a man, deal with it. Is it worth it? That's what I'm saying. Like, is it worth it to you? Is no deal is ever fair. Everybody
Mm-mm.
always feels like they're a little bit screwed when they do a
Life
deal.
isn't fair.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And men, you're not supposed to absorb all of that stuff without getting anything out of it. I'm not telling you to
Mhm.
like simp or be a victim or
Right.
whatever. Although I will say, if you're a Christian man, you're supposed to love your family as Jesus loved the church.
Mhm.
Um, I'm going to tell you what Jesus did for the church. Wasn't super
Mhm.
fair.
Nope.
Everybody forgot about him and abandoned him in the end. And then, like
Mhm.
after the fact, they're like, "Yeah, he was pretty great. Whoopsie,
Exactly.
sorry. I feel really bad." And it's
Yep.
like, yeah, find a family that's worth that for you. If you're a Christian,
Exactly.
right?
Build it, but
But
yeah.
anyways, we've hit about time in about
Yes.
2 hours. I had a lot of fun. What did you think?
Oh, I had a great time. And hopefully you'll have me on some more and get some more practice, and it'll come a little bit easier. This is one of my first times doing this sort of thing, but I appreciate
Me
that you
too. Me
had me.
too.
I had a good talk. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And if anybody watches this after the fact, feel free to put in the comments what you think you'd like us to talk about. We're here to
Hmm.
provide both the male and the female perspective,
Hmm.
and we're both realistic. Neither of us hate women or men. Uh, we just want you all to fulfill your role and not be such
Hmm.
a punk about it.
Exactly. There is a proper balance to be struck, and society is doing awful at striking it at this point. So,
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys. Hang loose, stay positive, and hope for the best, guys. All right.
mhm.
See you later.